Dead Art Studios painting chat. New painting this week, 30 by 40 centimetres on birch panel. I've done some work already and I put the gesso on and laid it on nice and thick, left some sort of textured brush marks in, kind of with a decorating brush actually, so it's quite sort of thick. And I wanted it to look like it had been put on with finesse, but also sort of speed and generosity. And then last night I started doing the sort of first aspect of the painting, which I wanted to be sort of something hidden in the fog. So I started blending black and white to make this sort of obviously grey colour, but with a bit of a sort of dark a bit down the middle here to indicate something. You know, I don't know if you've ever been out on a super foggy day and like you can see like a tree, but you can't make it out at all. It's just like this dull haze. Well, that's the sort of vibe I'm going for, but I have got a more sort of vertical up and down thing going as well from where I was doing the brush strokes, and that's just how the blending kind of went, but I do kind of like it. So the first thing I'm going to do today is work on the edges a bit more with the white paint and kind of try and do a little bit of the blending. But then the main idea of the painting is on top of that sort of foggy idea is to have a sort of chaotic, thin black pattern on it. Maybe, because this is the experimental part, in the shape of a tree, or the idea of a tree at least, but sort of chaotic. You know when people do ink drawings, scribble drawings with sort of biro pens, that kind of scribble idea. But what I'm going to try and use for that is hair off a hairbrush. Now that's my daughter's hair, so it makes it slightly less icky, but that's what I'm going to use. Also, I have an amazing compulsion whenever I see a bit of hair in a hairbrush to take it out, even though it's not my own, wherever I am. Not at other people's houses. Not going around to other people's houses, pulling out the hair out of the hairbrush, just around the house. So that's where we're going to move to after we've done the blending. We'll see how it goes. Normally I do the whole thing sort of one take, but if I need to do a couple of cuts so that we can get each bit in a sensible amount of time, then we'll do that as well. So let's get a bit of white paint. I'm going to go for sort of basically a dry brushing approach. Yesterday I did kind of a bit of dry brushing and a bit of wet brushing just to get it how I wanted it, and then because it was a little bit wet on the edges are a little bit thin. So I've got the sort of darkness in the middle, and I did actually want whiter, brighter highlights on the edges. On the top here is a bit thin as well, so I will get some white into that. On the bottom, I'm going to try and leave it as if the darkness is kind of emerging from down there. So I'm no expert at blending and all this kind of business, so let's learn together, shall we? And I am going to stick with a sort of generally up and down approach. And we're just going to keep blending and blending, and I'm not going to try and not use any water right now and see if we can get the effect we want without dampening the brush. Hence dry brushing, I believe. I mean, some people put some on and then use a different brush that's totally clean and dry to brush it in, I think. But like I say, if you're here for blending tips, probably not the best video to pick. If you're here for chat and exploration into the world of painting, then stick around. Okay. Now, if it does get like this, thing with acrylic is it does dry super fast. So I'm just going to spray the tiniest smidge of water onto there, just so that we can try and get a better blend. So immediately break my own rules, and that is the first thing that I always do whenever I'm painting. So the challenge for this painting is, as normal with a new painting, you have an idea and you kind of want to make it appear on the board or the canvas or whatever you're using. And the challenge is to get there, and most of the time I don't. Most of the time it goes on its own journey. And that's all right, isn't it? But it is nice to try and get where you want to go. And I think with this bit, I got the vague idea right, the darkness in the centre and then lighter towards the edges. Now this blending looks challenging. And acrylic is notoriously hard to blend. A lot of people end up just using spray guns, I think, to get a super smooth look. Now, do I want super smooth? I don't know. We'll see. I want smoother than that. Let's give it a little spray and try and encourage that to happen. Okay, it's left some interesting little marks as well into the sort of that's too much paint, into the sort of background of the painting. It is a bit textured on there, so I'm not going to get super smooth. That's not looking too shabby. Let's try and move some of this up and down as well, because this is where you're going to have to bring a bit of sort of fresh paint onto the old painting, onto the last bit of the painting that I did last night to get it to mix a bit better. And really, I'm kind of happy with the overall effect. What I just wanted to do is, like, some of these edges seemed a bit bare, so I just wanted to sort of make those look less unfinished. Okay. I suppose this is where most people just cut to the next bit of the video. I'll roll with it for a bit. This would be the chat part of Paint and Chat. I don't really have a topic this week because I just wanted to discuss the new painting. So we will get back to topics. And I have been exploring different artists and some art history on Art Wiki again. And I'm thinking of just making a video, maybe one a month, where we just sort of go on the computer and troll through Art Wiki and have a look at a different artist, and you can look at what sort of most of their works are put on there. So that might be a cool video to make. It's just a matter of having time to do it. So my dry brushing has gone basically out the window because it's not really doing what I want. So forget what my words say. I'll have to do what I want. I'm getting a message in. Alright, get out there. Okay. Well, we're getting white everywhere, and we're sort of making a... We're definitely making a foggy scene. Okay. talking of hair, my own's gone a bit mad. Maybe I need a haircut. Keep thinking about having one of these modern haircuts where they go sort of fade up, but then it's a bit crazy on top, you know. And then I'm not a man who's particularly interested in. I suppose in principle it'd be nice to have a cool haircut, but I've just always had wild hair, and it's never really done anything that I wanted to do. So I gave up many years ago, I suppose. Right, let's get this paint on. Thickening up nicely. Dry brushing technique for this. 2 out of 10. Didn't really do what I wanted. More exploration, more exploration required. Okay. I mean, I don't use a brush very often in my art and painting, believe it or not. I normally use blades and palette knives. So it's just reasonably unusual for me to be doing. Right. Now this is looking very sort of harsh in the middle, but I'm thinking once I get this paint on the edges here, which is what I was trying to do, and so get that finished, then we can sort of just wipe the brush a bit, get most of the paint off. And then blend it in. Right. Get that there as well. And we need to make it try and look smooth and buttery. And get these harsh edges out of the way. We've still got that grey bit in the middle, so that's good. That's what we're going for. That's looking quite nice and smooth down there, so let's work with that and make sure it stays nice and smooth. It's looking good. I'm going to fix those edges, and that can start sort of drying and being how I want. And I can then just come in and just, I'm still a bit wetter in here, which is good. This side needs to be blended in a bit more. Surprisingly tiring on the arm, this. Okay. I think we're there. I think we're there. Right, so I think that what's going to happen is I'm going to keep staring at little random marks. I like trying to buff it out. Okay, let's leave it there. So the next is the hair. Straighten my own hair out for this. So I think what I'll do is get quite a black, quite sort of slightly inky, but still quite thick, and then just drag a single strand up and see what happens. We're just making it up today, this new technique. We've got an idea, but we don't know actually what the paint wants to do. So got my black, and I suppose if I'm going to put a hair in it, I need it to be sort of like spread out a bit. So, and I want it to be wet, so that the hair picks up the paint. But I don't want it to be too wet, because when I put it on, I want it to leave quite a definite line. Right, let's have a look at the hair. Right, what happens when I use just one single hair? Will the camera pick up one single hair? Right, so if I hold the hair, oh, it's got paint on it, and then I sort of pin it down. Dab it in. Now, okay, it did something. Let's keep going. Okay. Kind of liking the idea. Kind of vaguely doing what I thought. There it's sort of bumping a bit more. The thing is, I want to get the line, but I don't want to bump my thumb onto the board and put a thumbprint into it as well, so. Okay. Well, maybe just a tad more water might help. Yes. Oh, we can sort of let it fall, and then it makes a sort of interesting shape. Where's the hair gone? Move that out of the way. Keep a good shot. Where's my hair? There. Now, if we sort of do that. Now, how are we going to get any vague sort of resemblance to a tree? I don't know, but I'll use the idea of an upwards thing, which is what a tree is. It's pretty, in terms of what we can see anyway. I suppose the roots are downwards. All right. What's the hair gone again? Dropped it. Come back hair. Right, just get another hair. That's the answer to that one. They're in no short supply. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a time lapse for TikTok while I'm doing this, and then I'll come back and show you the progress I've made, because doing this for an hour with a hair is going to be pretty dull. So let's do that. Okay, so I've been doing the technique a bit with the hair, and the best way I've found to do it is to put some on the palette knife and then sort of just to drip it through, and then you can rest it and it makes a sort of imprint onto things. So there is various things you can do. Drags, and if you bring them down, then it makes that, like that messy bit there, it makes a different pattern. Or you can just do imprints on like that, and you can do curls. And so it's quite interesting, and there's a different, quite a few different sort of looks I think you could get with it. I'm definitely going to carry on with it, but I do think this one's not been done with very much intention. Like, I've just been sort of slapping it on, and actually the more I've done it, the more I've realised you could probably be quite a lot more precise with it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to spray this one with water and try and blend it into the background a bit to get more of that dark look kind of where I wanted it, and we'll see. We'll see what happens. Don't spray the camera. Say that every week. And we'll just do some blending. And we're going to leave it here for this week with paint and chat. I'll do more work. We'll come back. I'll have a topic to chat about next week. So yeah, have a good week. See you next time. Dead Art Studios, paint and chat.